What you're looking at right now is a victim of savagery, hung from the ceiling of a makeshift butcher's chamber, throat and genitalia removed. Barely 2 months prior, police received this phone call a quarter mile from the same location.
So technically, he hasn't done anything wrong in the eyes of the law. I think let's just get me the hell out of here so I can go home. Okay? That's all I want, ma'am. And I'm sorry you're coming on short. I just don't know the choice in my head. I never thought this would be all in my life.
That was the voice of a terrified man who just escaped the clutches of a killer named Mark David Latunsky. And when police finally caught up to him, it was too late. Their gruesome discovery would spark numerous questions. Just how many people had Mark? Who was the man in the basement? Why was he wearing BDSM gear? And why did Mark keep insisting this was all a big misunderstanding? This is 54-year-old Mark David Latunsky, a former family man, friendly neighbor, and chemist. That is, until schizophrenia, conspiracies, and mental illness took over his life. Soon he became the eccentric man who lived down the road, wore kilts everywhere he went, and the neighbors avoided. However, on the 28th of December 2019, everything changed.
The man convicted of murder and cannibalism.
Kevin Bacon's father told us his son was turning his life around. He was planning on going back to school, and he had just started a new job. Unfortunately, his life came to a sudden end because of Mark Latunsky.
Kevin Bacon was a 25-year-old hairstylist with plans to attend college and pursue a degree in philosophy. That is, until he met Mark on a dating site, looking to have an evening of casual sex with an experienced older man. On the 24th of December 2019, they met in person. In less than 24 hours, he was Kevin never made it to Christmas breakfast, and his family quickly reported him missing. 4 days later, the police arrived at Mark's residence, found Kevin's lifeless corpse, and immediately arrested him. The whole time, Mark insisted it was all a mistake, a misunderstanding, that it was all an agreement between the two of them. Kevin Bacon wanted to be, and Mark was simply helping him. Now the police had to untangle what really led to the death of Kevin Bacon. What followed next was hours of the police interrogating a deeply unwell man.
Mark David Latunsky. That is not my legal name.
Oh, it isn't?
No. That is a stolen identity. Mark David Latunsky was last, or at least the last record that I have of Mark David Latunsky was 1972. He was born in 1969. He has black hair. He has brown eyes. And he was born a cripple. What happened to Mark David Latunsky? I have no idea.
Okay.
However, all of the people that I grew up with knew that I'm not Mark David Latunsky.
Right off the bat, Mark was already exhibiting signs of his deteriorated mental health. For the last few years, he'd refused to acknowledge that he is in fact who he is. He had been stuck with a paranoid delusion that the real Mark Latunsky was someone else, and he was given a false identity. To Mark, his real name was Edgar Thomas Hill, but he went by the Greek name Olikos. His identity, however, was far from his only delusion.
What do you do? You said you mentioned you work. What do you do for a living?
Well, right now I'm doing construction. What I have done for a living is had my trust funds raided by people who were pretending to employ me and giving me back my own money. That was my employment up until February of this year. That ran through 2 companies. The first one was Flint Inc. No complaints about them on my part. They acted very honorably. But when they realized how deep they were in, they sold the business, got the hell out of Dodge, and passed it off to the international bankers.
Mark believed there was a shadowy organization attempting to control every aspect of his life, pulling the strings and manipulating some mysterious trust fund. He blamed them for his financial issues, even blamed them for his failed marriage.
The people who were running the trust purchased a girlfriend for me, and the easiest way to take care of somebody is to make them pretend that they love them. And so I did a fake marriage with this caregiver. Come to find out, if a DNA test were done, she's Mark Lipinski's first cousin.
Okay. So you kind of married her first, Lipinski's first cousin.
I married a biological first cousin of Mark Lipinski.
In reality, the girlfriend that was purchased for him was his ex-wife, lucky enough to have left years ago. The two of them got married in 2001 and had 4 children before the marriage ultimately fell apart. Police officers tracked down Mark's wife and interviewed her, hoping to shed more light on the mental enigma that is Mark Lipinski. She had much to say and even unearthed more troubling details about her ex-husband.
I didn't really notice issues until 2 weeks after our youngest child was born. It was at my son's birthday party because my oldest and my youngest are 2 days apart in birthday. And that's when it was at my son's birthday party, and he came out with all these theories that he wasn't actually his mother's son, he was his mother's brother, and there was a family fortune that he was supposed to get, and there was people watching him. And I tried for 2 years to get him he was hospitalized for twice in the stress unit, tried for 2 years to get him to stay on medication and to get him help. And he had medication that he filled again, but he wasn't taking it because I was counting them to make sure he was taking it. And I discovered that he wasn't taking it. And then when I moved out is when he called CPS one day claiming all kinds of claims that I wasn't taking care of the kids and that the house was unlivable. And he worked a lot. He was gone a lot. I think now he was meeting people after work and not coming home till late. There was one time when we were still living with his dad where I woke up at like 4 a.m. and he still wasn't home from work. And so I started, Jack, Mark's not home, what are we gonna do? And then he walked in like an hour later. Oh, and at the time he told me, I got working on something and I just stayed way too late. Now I suspect he was meeting people. And then there was one time, I think when Owen was probably 2 or 3, I found a computer, and I asked him about it, and he said, I just want to make sure I measure up. You just want to know how I measure up. And I, okay, didn't even think about it. Right around that same time, he admitted to me that he was cheating with men, cheating on me with men, and I found out that he had been meeting men when he was traveling and after work. And so we did counseling for a year, and that didn't go anywhere, and he was still meeting men, and so I filed for divorce. I said, I'm finished.
After 11 years together, his deteriorating mental health and constant cheating broke his family apart. But the end of his marriage was just the start of a new life for Mark Lipinski. He got married to a man named Jamie and eventually went from a family man to a worker, willing to make your fantasies come true for the right price. At the time of his arrest, officers found multiple sexual devices, harnesses, and assorted playthings strewn about the place. It was this new life path that ultimately led him to Kevin Bacon.
Well, I started in about April of this year.
So like massages?
Just massages. It's like, you know what? I'll spend time with you. I can't guarantee. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So, hey, guess what? I can't sell that because that's not the way the world works. But you want to spend your time with me? Boom, here's your price, and I'll have a good time with it. And
how much?
You will as well.
So when you say here's your price, that's how much you would charge?
Yeah, $200 an hour, $1,500 a day. And if you look at it and you say, you want to dicker a deal on it? Guess what? I'm not doing this because I want to. I'm doing it for honest money. Pulling my own money out of a trust fund.
How many men do you think that you have helped with their fetishes? Ballpark figures.
How many?
Or for how many years have you been say, this type of a role?
Well, prior to about 6 years ago, I was submissive. I was a switch, or such. I get thank you letters or notes all the time from people all over the world.
So people from around the world that come to you?
Not either online, or, like I said, it's because I run a very open forum, so that anybody can contact me. They know who I am.
What's the forum called?
Similar to the other men Mark was talking about, Kevin met a man who ultimately killed an aim online, on Grindr to be more precise, a dating app popular among the LGBTQ+ community. After multiple unrelated tangents, the officers finally got Mark to get back on track and talk about the man they found in his basement, and why he insisted it was a misunderstanding. Little did they know Mark was about to give a deeply disturbing recollection of events.
When did he come to your house?
I picked him up. We physically met in Swartz Creek. And that was when because he had given me details of what he wanted. And so I said, well, I'll tell you what. I will bring all of the things that you would need so that you can see them. I said, I will lay them out in front of you. I says, then I'll step back. I says, you need to decide. You need to decide, because I'm not going to force you.
Okay, so you meet him in person?
That was the first time I'd ever met him. I had chatted with him, so I had a tremendous amount of detail of what he was looking for. Only what he was looking for.
What exactly did Kevin Bacon want from this man? That was the question. Mark's answer, however, either due to his mental illness, an attempt to lie and cover up his actions, or possibly some nugget of truth, was that Kevin Bacon wanted to be. He would spend the rest of the interview trying to sell that story to detectives.
That he sent me a message that just said, you know what, I'm ready. Where do you want to meet?
Okay. You have items laid out in the back of the van.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets out and he sees the items. He decides what he's going to put on or what he's going to wear.
He
made those decisions.
He made all of those decisions
so
of what exactly what pieces of what was there he wanted, and based on, like I said, it was full. There were some things that went back into the bag, and some things that he put on, and some things he says, well, you know what, maybe I'll try those later, but, let's not start with that. I says, look, you need to put these on. I says, I'm not going to force you to put, I'm not going to force you to do anything.
Right.
This is you.
Okay.
And I know I've never done this before.
Okay, so what did you do?
Well, after talking to him in multiple ways, I could slit his throat. Here's the knife. I could do it that way, and I couldn't do it.
Okay.
I said, I don't know if that would be painless. And we debated it, all of the different ways. I said, I have a sword upstairs, but it's dull. It wouldn't work. I was afraid I would hurt him. I couldn't run the risk of maiming him and having him suffer. And then, of course, it was a matter of doing what I needed to do to complete what I told him I would do. Turn him into something that would produce life. And that's what I was in the process of doing.
The way Mark told it, this murder was a mutual agreement, which is hardly a defense for his crime. After all, to be clear, this does not stop Mark's actions from being murder. That said, many pieces of evidence poke holes in Mark's story. The text messages between the two of them on Grindr are a great start. As you can imagine, Kevin did not text Mark looking for someone to kill him. He was interested in being with multiple men and experiencing a complete loss of control. Mark responded saying, "I can make that happen," and promising to deliver him naked and blindfolded to multiple men for use. Explaining to him that for the fetish fantasy to be fulfilling, he would have to induce a fight or flight response in Kevin. Facing the promise of a thrilling sexual encounter, Kevin asked, "Now just one question. You are going to keep me safe, right?" Further proving this was not a scheduled suicide. Mark, of course, assured him that once the scene is over, you are returned. This, as you already know, turned out to be a lie.
You've got a rectangular room. Okay. You've got the door here with the St. Andrew's cross on it. And then the end of the area is here, so it's dirt here. And he was laying this way with his head here. And he was facing that direction. He was still in this position, and what I did was I had to move his head in that because at that point I would.
So did you lean over him?
I leaned over.
Can you demonstrate? Pretend his head's against that wall. What did you do? Okay, well, tell me what you did.
I saw that it was going longer, and I took his head and I moved it to the side and this way. So it was as much as I could in order to, whatever it was, it at least initiated another gash that was there wasn't the spray like there was the first time, so it was at least more effective. It was the discussion, like wherever, whatever is consumable is consumable. So I said, I will eat you, and he says, okay.
Piecing together Mark's statements with the physical evidence collected at his home, officers were able to reconstruct what had gone down that Christmas Eve between Mark Latunsky and Kevin Bacon. After the pair physically met that day, Mark took him back to his home. Despite his promises online, there were no men waiting to fulfill Kevin's fantasy. However, Mark role-played as if there were. Once Kevin was inside, he put on BDSM gear and remained blindfolded as Mark pretended to auction him off in the kitchen. After that, Mark moved him downstairs to his secret basement kill room. The room had caged, tamper-resistant lights, a 4-inch thick insulated door, a sliding barn door that hid the entrance, and an elaborate pulley system that was attached to the ceiling. That was where the portion of the evening took place. According to Mark, after that was over, Kevin told him that he wanted to be. So Mark walked upstairs and grabbed a hunting knife he'd purchased from Walmart hours earlier. He returned to the basement and Kevin in the back of the neck, after which he his throat. Once that was done, he tied ropes to Kevin's ankles, fed them through the pulley system, and used weights to suspend him in the air, allowing him to bleed out, just like one would do to slaughtered cattle. But of course, that was Mark's final goal, because once he hung Kevin out to dry, he took his testicles and took them to the kitchen.
Where did you do that? I mean,
on the kitchen stove.
Like with a frying pan?
It was the griddle. I eat Rocky Mountain oysters anyway.
Sure.
I have a carton of them that I had bought. And so it's really very simple. You slice them thin, you saute them with some Worcestershire sauce, and once they're done, you just eat them.
That was Mark flippantly explaining how he cut up, cooked, and ate Kevin's, likening it to the same process he uses to cook Rocky Mountain oysters, which, if you didn't know, is a delicacy made from bull testicles. Of course, he wasn't going to stop there. Mark had plans for the rest of Kevin's body all the way down to his bones. Plans he was more than happy to share with the police.
A jerky and the like. I mean, I didn't know that at the time, and so afterwards, and in fact, I mean, yesterday maybe it was, well, it depends on what day it is now.
It is now Saturday morning.
But I just ordered a dehydrator so that, I mean, I said not knowing, just so that I could continue to process away and do what he wanted me to do.
So you would have taken more of his body and put it in the dehydrator?
Absolutely.
And where's the dehydrator now?
It's on order. It'll arrive. I didn't order it until after we talked, and he said that that's what he wanted, and so I.
And putting the muscle from the body into the dehydrator would have to eat like jerky.
Basically,
wasn't it showing up at the house? And maybe you already told us that story. Remember, what were you going to do with his body?
His internals were going to go out back, and I was going to put the peach pits in them, and then the rest of them I have the chestnuts that are in the refrigerator, and I had been meaning to plant them before, but really never had anything that to grow them with. I was going to drop the chestnuts into a portion of them. There's a pile of mulch out back. I was just going to cover them with mulch.
You were going to cover his bones with mulch?
No, not the bones. I was just going to take the internal gut portions and get rid of it, so that they were each growing things. And then I was just going to crush up the bones into bone meal, and then see if
seasoning.
What?
Seasoning? Is that what you said?
No, grind them up into bone meal, and take the bone meal and pair them with tulip bulbs. I said, okay, let's say that the police have a problem with it. I said, the police have a problem with it, then what? They throw me in jail, or they try to. I said, I guess I'll just have to deal with that.
Parsing how much of Mark's story is true, how much are lies, and how much are his mental delusions is a difficult proposition to say the least. One thing is for certain, though. Some degree of planning went into the murder, desecration, and cannibalism of Kevin Bacon. According to Mark's internet search history later obtained by detectives, right before the two met in person, Mark began looking for knives on the internet. In between searches for lure payment in gold and sexy Navy male stripper, he searched for daggers, butcher, hunting, and razor-sharp knives a total of 56 times. There was also the fact that Mark had gotten obsessed with cannibalism. 6 months before the murder, Mark's salacious line of work connected him with a man who lived in New York, a man we'll call James. James and Mark began chatting about a specific kind of fetish, one on the fringes of BDSM, a fetish that involved roleplay and sexually linked fantasies of cannibalism. While James focused on a fantasy of getting eaten, Mark was to be his consumer. He sent messages like, "I would need to make sure my technique was perfect, pain-free, and bloodless before I did you. And I know that if the pig is afraid, the meat is tough, and the blood must be let to have meat that is tender." So when Mark said,
I couldn't run the risk of maiming him and having him suffer.
Earlier in the interview, that was not some twisted form of compassion. Kevin really was like cattle to this man. This relationship with James was the motivation for the construction of his basement kill room. Mark continued chatting with James for the rest of 2019. In fact, he was the first person to know about the murder.
Part of my culture is that if you have an honorable death, then you have to tell somebody before you pass 3 houses. And so I looked at it, and we've even talked about this, because he gave me the name.
You and
I did have to tell someone, and even when I talked to him, he says, just call me Kevin Bacon. And I went, okay. I said, if I say that I Kevin Bacon, he says, no one's gonna believe you. I said, I could tell anybody, and no one would believe me because of my name. I actually texted before I ever did anything, I went up and I texted a friend who was, and I'm going to say, what's the correct word? Understanding of the situation.
At 2:15 a.m. on Christmas morning, Latunsky texted James and told him what he had just done. Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is my Heros, Mark texted, along with a photo of his cooking in a skillet. Heros is a term assigned to a cannibal's victim. James either didn't seem to mind or thought he was making it up, because he responded with, I hope you enjoy them, and asked, can I see more pics of my room, referring to the basement kill room where Mark had just slaughtered Kevin. Beyond the killing, the cooking, and open acknowledgement of his heinous acts, Mark truly relished in the murder he had just committed, basking himself in Kevin's blood and happily going into more sordid details with the detectives.
And I will say is that after it was done, I looked at myself and I went, I was covered in I'm a little not covered, but it's like I had some on me, and I looked at it, and it's like I had done what I needed to do, and I could wash this off. Nope, I'm not going to. And at that point, I went upstairs and I crawled into bed, and I just left it.
Did you ever wash those sheets then after you laid in it with blood on it?
No. And when I got up the next morning, because I rested, just lightly, I got up and it was middle of the afternoon when I was supposed to go over and meet the other guys on the 25th, and I looked at it and I went, you know what? I'm not. And I left it right on, and I put on what clothing I had, and I went, I'm not going to wash him off.
Where did you put the clothing that you have him on you?
You can probably tell by now something is very wrong with Mark Latunsky. Throughout this interrogation, he has remained entirely too relaxed, unmoved, and seemingly too experienced with the act of another person. It's no surprise that the detectives soon came to the conclusion that Kevin Bacon might not be the first person Mark had ever killed. The truth, however, was that Kevin was not the first person unlucky enough to have found himself in Mark's clutches.
Where they were down, or they wanted to end their life. Have you ever assisted?
No, there have been people who have hinted at it.
Okay.
There have been people who, just kind of play around with it a little bit. But I've always, that I've shied away from it for obvious reasons, and that in fact it is, like I said,
their life. And maybe I'm wrong, but and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm trying to sit back and visualize how this all played out. And with your demeanor, you're so calm, and And I'm just wondering, is this really the only person that that this has happened with?
You're completely wrong.
Okay.
However, and I'm going to put a however in there. Buried anything on the property.
Let me give you another piece of paper.
Okay. If the house is here, okay, my dog Lad is buried here.
Okay, so you buried a dog.
I buried the dog.
Respectfully. What else have you buried?
I have buried a horse. And actually, I didn't bury the horse. When the horse drank the water out of the barn, it went crazy and dropped dead. And so the neighbor came over and he buried that
Can you
horse
put
right
horse?
there.
Can you write horse?
Horse.
And then dog?
Dog.
Have you buried anything else? Because I'm calling, I'm going to have a cadaver dog go out and just do a property sweep, just so we cover our bases.
You can cover your bases. There are, to my knowledge, there is absolutely nothing there buried.
Okay. Have you taken the life of anybody else? I'm just being...
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. What do you mean to your knowledge?
I have not taken anybody. I'm telling you, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
Whether he had actually someone before continues to remain a mystery. On the other hand, whether or not he had ever attempted it before is a completely different question. What you're about to listen to is a 911 call from a man who escaped Mark Latunsky's basement dungeon jail just 1 month before the murder.
Sherlock County 911.
I want to get away from some creepy guy. He had me tied up in his basement.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I'm trying to escape from some guy who had me chained up in his basement. He's after me.
Hey, Z, I need you to go to somewhere safe. If you can run up to somebody's house. Where are you at right now? Are you able to get away?
Help me. Help me.
6-2, he's running towards the house. Guy's trying to come after him. I'm trying to get further. Okay, I need an address where you're at.
You got an address?
I'm trying to get it.
910W.
910?
Yeah.
I think he's in front of 910 West Tyrell.
That was the voice of 29-year-old spotted running out of Mark's house with his face bleeding, desperately searching for help. Lucky for the man, he made it just in time to a friendly neighbor's house.
I hear a pounding at my door at 4 in the afternoon, and I jump up. My dogs are barking like you probably hear, and this kid has his face covered with a rag and a phone to his ear, and he's like, help me, he's after me, just scared to death out of his mind. A gentleman pulls up in my driveway in a silver SUV, and he gets out, and he's wearing the same getup this guy's wearing, which is a leather skirt and a couple of belts crossing her body, no shoes on, no shirt on. This kid grabs my arm and clutches behind me. Keep him away from me.
This victim had also come to Mark looking for sexual satisfaction, but finding something else, something much worse. Of course, Mark had an excuse for the neighbor and the police, explaining why a bleeding man was running away from him. An excuse that was difficult to believe, to say the least.
Back in November, the troopers came out because there was somebody who ran from your house.
He was...
What I'm saying is, what caused him to flee leads me to believe that Kevin isn't the only one, that's what I'm trying to explain.
Fair enough. And this is what I will say, is that, and I don't even remember the chap's name, is that he was playing along very well until he had full ability to get his own clothes. They were right there. But he went to one of the most expensive pieces of leather articles that I own. And put that on.
Wasn't it like $300?
Actually, I think that's closer. There's 300, probably closer to 500. But yeah,
I think that's what you told me.
That's $100.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, okay, a bar vest, $50. You know what? A pair of to walk out the door with that. Now I'm just saying, you know, like, but
didn't he go there wanting a sexual encounter with you?
Yeah.
So then why would he freak out when?
No, it was. You know, I'm saying. He had my $300 leather kilt, and he's walking across the yard. Now, we'd already talked. He knew which neighbor he could go to who doesn't care for me at all. He walked past that house. He walked past the next house. And it's like, I look at him, and then he books it 2.5, 3 houses down and decides to start climbing fences. I'm like going, you're stupid. What's going on here? And it's like, but then it was like, and my personal opinion is that he found the nicest piece of leather where he shimmied into it, and he was going to walk with it. And if he got out of sight, where I didn't know where he was, then go home with it.
Apparently, it was all a ploy to steal his expensive leather kilt, and that's exactly what he told the police back then as well. Of course, his explanation did not account for the fact his victim was bleeding, but either way, nothing came from that event. The victim chose not to press charges, later telling detectives he believed that it may have been a form of sexual foreplay, not kidnapping. But that's not all. Just 1 month earlier in October, the police received a very similar 911 call.
Shiawassee 911, where's your emergency?
And I was supposed to be meeting them at the bus station. I met this guy. I'm by. He was cute. He hit on me. I know. We went out to the car. We talked. We went to the store. Had a soda. I woke up in the basement.
Okay.
He obviously drugged me. I never ever had anything like this happen. I don't know whether he drugged me. I don't know. I woke up in the basement, okay? Chained in the basement with a leather thing around my ankle, and I cut it with the butcher knife that I have in my hand, excuse my French. I just want to get out of here, and I want to go home. I don't even care about the legal case I was here for. I'm sorry, I can't help them. I want to go home.
Okay.
I don't want an incident report. I just really need a ride. Just get out of here, please.
Unlike his other victim, however, he was not escorted home by the police. No, Mark managed to convince him and the police that it was all sexual foreplay. Not only that, Mark also convinced him to follow him back to his house. After that, they struck up a lasting friendship, sharing their fetish fantasies with each other online. That man, by the way, was James, Mark's internet friend, and the second half of his cannibal foreplay. Mark was clearly a very convincing man. This, along with other aspects of the case, have had people theorizing that Mark might have been faking his mental illness the whole time. Contrary to that point is the fact that just in this interrogation, there are what appeared to be moments of Mark seemingly slipping sanity. At one point, the detectives leave Mark alone in the room for a short break. What happened next was positively spine-chilling. He spent the next 10 minutes having what appeared to be a conversation with himself. See, Mark has been like this for a long time. 2010 was the first time psychiatrists suspected he was suffering from schizophrenia. He was given antipsychotic medication, which of course, he soon stopped taking. 2 years later, a judge granted a petition for the forced psychiatric treatment of Mark Latunsky. He was stated to have very paranoid thoughts and illogical thinking and perceptual disturbances. He has been hospitalized multiple times over the years. At this point in the interview, it was very clear that Mark was not of sound body and mind, especially considering the fact that despite all the things he'd done and openly confessed to, Mark still thought he'd be going home that evening.
Am I going to be able to go back home and take care of the dog, or do you know, or what?
I don't know yet. We'll cross that bridge real quickly here, though.
Okay.
I'm not going to leave you in the dark all day.
Okay, great. I'm tired and I want to get some sleep, and today's a gym day.
I hear you. I don't like missing gym days. I hear you. Give me a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Mark did not go home that evening. He was taken to jail and remained there for the remainder of the investigation. After all, the detectives hadn't put every single piece in place just yet. There were still some questions left. Did Mark Latunsky really do all of this by himself? Or did he have help from someone very close to him? Someone he met on Christmas Day barely 12 hours after the murder of Kevin Bacon. That someone was his husband, Jamie.
When's the last time you talked to Mark?
I talked to Mark on Christmas Day. I had some friends over and I didn't want him to be alone, so I invited him over Christmas Day if he wanted to come.
Okay, so
he arrived there in the afternoon, I don't know, sometime around 1, 2 o'clock. He appeared to be normal. He never exhibited any signs that anything was wrong. What is somebody who, when you met, was this kind, gentle soul who turned into this monster? You don't want to believe it. That's why I had to get out. I couldn't take that lifestyle anymore. Nobody should have to go through this. No parent should ever have to bury a child.
Jamie had been married to Mark since 2015, and according to him, their marriage slowly fell apart because of Mark's waning mental health and his increasingly extreme sexual proclivities. Although the pair hadn't officially divorced by the time of Kevin's murder, they were living in separate homes and still remained relatively close. This, of course, drew the attention of the detectives who brought him in to answer a few questions, and once more officers could see another terrible side of Mark Latunsky.
So, can we go over, how you were planning your Christmas? Because, you were having people over around Christmas, how all that worked out?
Well, I put out there on Facebook that if anybody didn't have a place to go to on Christmas, to feel free to come to my place, because nobody should have to spend Christmas alone. I had a couple friends over, and one gentleman did reach out to me and say that he would like to come.
The text conversation with him on Christmas Eve with Mark?
Not that I recall, no.
Okay.
I remember, because I worked all day. And I went to the mall shopping. I went to Walmart to pick up some things for dinner. Then they announced they were closing at 6, which I had no clue. And then I went home. And I remember just spend the night. And I said, sure.
Okay. And what time did you work on Christmas Eve?
Oh, me, I worked till noon.
Okay, so...
Well, the sign closed at noon. I think I might have been done around 1 o'clock.
So what time did you start?
Oh, I started at 9.
Okay, 9 a.m. to about 1 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you went directly to Walmart?
No, and then I went out to the mall. I went to Genesee Valley, and I finished up my Christmas shopping, and...
How long were you there?
Well, I was there until, I went to Walmart, and it takes approximately 15 minutes to get out there from this location, because it takes me 15 minutes to get home, and Walmart's just down the road.
Sure.
I must have been out there till about 5:30.
Oh, at the mall?
At the mall,
okay.
Shopping, yeah.
All right. Did you find everything you looked for?
Well, yeah, and I found a few things for myself.
Okay.
Good vibes.
Yeah. A lot of things are on sale at the right time. What stores did you go to?
H&M.
Okay.
The Express.
Mm-hmm.
What should I go? H&M Express. 7-Eleven. 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 7-Eleven always usually park at J.C. Penney's. I might have gone to Macy's. I don't recall him buying anything at Macy's, though. I would have to say the two stores I can definitely remember is Express and H&M.
And you remember buying things from both those stores?
Right.
Okay. Something for yourself or something?
Something for myself and for gifts for...
And Greg?
Some things for Mark.
Okay. Did you give Mark his gifts?
Sure did.
Okay. What did you buy Mark?
I bought him a sweater. That was a sweater.
What store was that from?
I do believe the sweater. I don't know if it was at H&M or Express.
Okay, one or the other.
One or the other.
Okay, that's no problem. And then, did you buy him any more gifts besides the sweater?
Oh, I bought him some beard stuff, but I got that from the salon.
From your salon?
Yes.
Okay.
Grooming oils and shampoos. I think I might have bought him a shirt. I have receipts for everything.
Okay. I'll let you know if we need to see it. And the reason why we ask these type of questions...
But I also use my credit card, so I...
And hope you know that, it's just so that we have a complete picture.
Right,
that we can, be able to, like you just offered, to give us receipts, so just so we can, if we need to verify stuff. Okay. So like you said, you gave them those gifts Christmas?
Mm-hmm. Christmas Day.
All right.
In fact, we sat there and opened them up. I also got Mark an ornament, but I ordered that through Amazon. Christmas ornament. And a bracelet, but that was from the salon. Just an expensive bracelet.
Tell me about, we talked earlier today about the text messages that we don't have them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have them anymore. They're not on your phone anymore.
Right.
Okay. Tell me about that. What happened?
Well, I was going through the messages, reading them over, seeing what what was in them, so I could just see if I missed something somewhere then I went to hold the phone, and next thing I know, they're all deleted because somehow I had touched these phones. I swear to God, they're so sensitive. Touch something to make it go to the delete all, which I never meant to do.
Okay.
I mean, it was an accident. I knew as soon as I did it. It was like, oh shit.
When did this happen?
I don't know. It was sometime after the arrest.
So it was before or after we talked to you?
It would have been after.
See, Jamie had been in contact with Mark multiple times before and after the death of Kevin Bacon. And now all of a sudden, the text conversations between the two of them had been accidentally deleted. As you can imagine, Jamie seemed like he had something to hide, and the detectives were ready to get to the bottom of it.
Is there things that you guys talked about that you'd be embarrassed about, or that you think?
I mean, I know that with today's technology, nothing is deleted. That no matter what, you can always retrieve whatever's in there. Like I said, iCloud, I'm sure it's probably an iCloud or somewhere.
You didn't think it was important to let us know about those text messages?
You know what, everything was so new. I was answering all the questions you gave to me. I never thought about it. I was trying to just cooperate.
But I mean, even after we talked to you the first time, and you said you were going through those text messages, right? Is that what you said?
Right.
And came across those. Even if you did accidentally delete those, you're a smart guy. I gotta believe that you put two and two together. Bacon, I just had some bacon. He killed Kevin Bacon.
No. First of all, I didn't even remember that text message until you had said something. And I never ever,
I mean, you put yourself in our shoes.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How it looks.
Right, I understand. I don't ever remember anything about, I don't, to put the two together, no, I never did. Never.
Jamie's excuses were difficult to believe. It didn't help that he'd already mentioned Mark texted him on Christmas Day about bringing over some bacon, which, as you know, also happened to be the last name of the man hanging upside down in his basement. Either way, Jamie only continued to deny knowing everything.
I really do. I want to believe that everything you're telling us is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a hard time, we have a hard time when knowing now what those text messages were.
Mm-hmm.
It was deleted and was never told to us. When you're trying to be, you've tried to be
because
coordinated.
I didn't even think about it. I was in shock myself. I couldn't believe what was going on. I never ever thought bacon and bacon. That is the last thing I ever thought of. That those two somehow coincided.
He never, other than those text messages.
Because he would. Like I said, he would bring bacon over, in the package, and
has done that in the past.
Yes, he's done that in the past. To make breakfast with and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Did he mention anything about a Kevin Bacon?
No.
At that Christmas Eve, Christmas Day?
No.
Anytime that you saw him afterwards, up until the arrest?
No.
Just want to talk just a little bit more about the way that the messages were deleted.
Mm-hmm.
Usually on iPhones, it's either a two-step. There is a one-step way that you can delete a whole conversation if you're on the outside thing. And I just wanted us to be clear, because I see a little bit of maybe grimace when we talk about it, when you say that you accidentally I'm just maybe thinking that was it just something that you just wanted to wipe it away, that you had these conversations with him and that you were upset and mad at him, that that you was like, I can't believe this guy, and then deleted him then.
I never intended to wipe out every message in that conversation. Never.
Okay.
It was.
Did you meant to just maybe delete some and not all?
No, I was really going through them, and like I said, I should have worn my glasses, but I didn't. Sometimes I take my phone out and it's on, I don't know, doing something that I'm going, how the hell did that? I can't even half the time get into it when I use my fingerprint, but yet I put it in my back pocket and somehow it calls somebody, or it's...
Or made aware of this prior to...
If I had known what had happened, I would have come to the police. If I had any suspicion at all, this isn't right. I never thought he would ever be capable of anything like this. He said weird things to me. He said
Now that was a significant statement. Jamie had intimate knowledge about Mark's serious mental health issues. After all, they were still married when both of those men escaped from Mark's home, yet even he couldn't predict what Mark was capable of. Jamie would go on to detail even more information about Mark's erratic behavior. And of course, it only got worse.
No, we're still legally married,
yeah,
but we're separated. I got out of there because he was starting to just say a lot of very unusual things that just didn't make sense. That the neighbor was contaminating our well, and it was like, why would he do that? It didn't make any sense to me that our neighbor would start contaminating our well. But he said, well, they are. You can't drink it, you can't bathe in it. I'd wake up and he'd be over me saying that I was a gray, green-eyed tribe leader, and that when the world turned upside down, that my people were going to need me to lead them again, and that he was somehow the leader of the North. And I was oozing black toxins. He took me to Dr. Gomez to tell the doctor that I was secreting this toxin when I was sleeping.
And that was all brand new since the end of summer, beginning of fall.
And that was since his being fired in February from his job.
So did that kind of talk start even before the summertime?
Some of but nothing like this. The stuff about his ex-wife, yes, but nothing like the neighbors contaminating. Nothing like, other than his place where he worked were contaminating his products. He said they were putting reproductive toxins in them, which I again, I tried to reason with him, but he said, well, they are. And, but nothing, none of this off the wall.
Okay.
Off the wall was a bit of an understatement. After Mark's first interrogation, he was brought in again for further questioning. Nothing had changed. Like clockwork, he once again recounted his paranoid delusions and insisted the murder was consensual. However, there was one new aspect to the story: his explanation for why Kevin wanted to be killed in the first place.
This was something that Kevin wanted, and you were willing to help him with it.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was an agreement between he and I, and that he was going to get something, and I...
What was he going to get?
He was going to get things for his family. And that because I've already been told that I own in lease form, I am the property owner of more than people will tell me. Although I think that I have 5 acres, I'm sitting on, my home sits on 5 acres, I really own the parcel behind as well. The 30-acre parcel behind, and more likely than not, the 40-acre parcel beside.
Well, let me ask you this. You're not going to answer my question. What does it have to do with Kevin?
That because
he wouldn't know all that.
Well, he did know that. And that one of the things that we talked about was, where is his family? And he said his family is south of I-69. I said, well, when you're looking at south of I-69, I-69 is the line that separates, is the defense line that separates
This has nothing to do with Kevin.
It has absolutely everything to do with Kevin. I says, I want to see your family north of I-69. I said, regardless of what home it is, if they're south of I-69, they're on the wrong side.
But him being dead, how does that put them north of 69?
Because if, or should I say, when the trust gets exposed, when the properties come available, then I could make sure, and the family that he has gets moved into one of the homes north of I-69.
He apparently promised Kevin land and property for his family, which is likely just another delusion of his. Apart from how ridiculous it sounds on the face of it, Mark Latunsky was not a wealthy landowner. Far from it. He was in financial trouble, at least according to Jamie.
He started wearing the kilt all the time. And
what color is the kilt?
we had several of them.
Okay.
He had a black, he had a like a burgundy red one, leather, canvas, like an army green. So like there was a goldish brown one.
And he worked out in the kilt?
No, he would then change into his workout.
Okay. Why the kilt, you know?
Because of the whole Viking thing, and he liked wearing them because he said they were, comfortable and
that was just, that seemed to start after he lost his job?
Well, we started wearing them beforehand, but he didn't wear them all the time because he would, he had to wear, of course, pants to work, and but after the job, he liked wearing his kilts. But after the job, he started wearing his kilts like more and more, like all the time. That it was kilts, all he would wear.
Do you know when he opened up the Chase Bank account?
That would have been sometime this year.
Okay. And how much money he opened it with?
I don't know the amount. I know he supposedly said he had cashed out his IRAs and his HSA because he needed money. He didn't have any money. He had no income. He lost his job, and I told him, I need to get a job. I can't support everybody I'm doing. And he had bills.
Right.
At this point, the detectives had gotten pretty much everything they could get out of Jamie. There was still one more hole left to fill. Witnesses claimed that Jamie had been spotted shopping with Kevin Bacon a year before his death on Christmas Eve. If that was true, that could potentially change the entire trajectory of this case.
So you're just saying that you might have been in the same spaces?
Same spaces where he was at. He might have even been out at the bars. I don't know.
Right. His face, kind of looks familiar to you or something like that. It's not like he was a total stranger. Right?
Somebody I may have seen in the crowd somewhere, like I said, in like Salon Centric or...
We received some information then that on October 5th, specifically, I know the date, October 5th of 2019, you and Mark were in Pier 1. I take that back. You and a different male, not Mark. You and another male were in Pier 1 shopping. And the person that's given us this information was about 100% sure it was you and Kevin Bacon.
No, it wasn't. It would have been Dar.
Back in October, that would have been him?
If I was there with anybody, it would have been him, yes.
Okay. Do you remember being there in October?
Probably, because I was in there getting stuff for my apartment.
Okay. So, when we go back and check their videos, because all these stores got video surveillance, there's a cloud, they keep it for a long time. When we go back and check that date, and I'm going to, and I haven't yet, but when we go back, there's no chance that that's you and Kevin Bacon. Because if it is, we're going to have some serious problems, right?
No, I understand.
So, but we always offer this, if you'd be willing to take a polygraph, to show that what you're telling us is true about never having anything to do with, or knowledge of, Kevin Bacon.
Absolutely.
No problem taking it, no problem.
No.
And again, it's voluntary, it's painless, takes a couple hours, and we most likely can do it right here at the post, if we can get the gentleman that does those to come in. But that's something that our bosses wanted to offer to you.
Like I said,
as part of
other than maybe I might have seen him somewhere or something like that, but as far as having any kind of introduction or meeting or anything prior to this, no.
Ultimately, Jamie was let go and was not charged in connection with Kevin Bacon's murder. Mark, on the other hand, faced a different fate. A search of his property was conducted, and no other bodies were found, nor was there evidence of any other murders. Once Mark was taken to court, his defense made a plea for insanity, which, after considering his long history of medical and court records, it was accepted. However, 9 months later, a judge overruled the insanity plea and placed Mark on a 15-month rehabilitation process, making him mentally stable and competent enough to be put on trial for the murder. By September of 2022, Mark Latunsky pleaded guilty to the charges of murder and mutilation.
On December 24th, 2019, were you at 703 West Terrell in Morris, Michigan?
Yes, I was.
To your knowledge, is that in Shiawassee County?
Yes, it is.
On that date, were you with Kevin Bacon?
Yes, I was.
Did you use a knife to stab Mr. Bacon?
Yes, I did.
Do you know that stabbing Mr. Bacon with a knife would most certainly create a very high risk of death or great bodily harm to Mr. Bacon?
Yes, I did.
After Mr. Bacon was dead, did you remove part of his body, specifically his testicles?
Yes, I did.
Did you move those testicles to the kitchen?
Yes, I did.
Did you do so without legal authorization, meaning you were not doing so to embalm Mr. Bacon's body or to do a proper post-mortem examination?
No, I didn't.
Your Honor, I believe that's sufficient factual basis for both counts.
Mark David Latunsky was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility for parole. Latunsky now lives at the Gus Harrison Correctional Facility in Adrian, Michigan, a prison that offers mental health programs. Click the video on screen and watch as I delve further into more cases.